Jim was a little boy living in poverty in Lancaster, California. His father was an alcoholic. His mother was chronically depressed and had attempted suicide multiple times. His family lived on public assistance. Jim often went hungry because there was no one to cook and no food in the house. He felt like he had no future. One day, when he was 12 years old, Jim walked into a magic shop where he met Ruth, the owner's mother. She promised to teach him a special kind of magic. Every single day over the next 6 weeks of summer vacation, Jim and Ruth met at the magic shop. Today, Jim is a 69-year-old neurosurgeon who is a professor at Stanford, where he runs a center whose founding benefactor was His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Into the Magic Shop is a memoir written by Dr. James R. Doty. To find out more about the life changing magic that he learnt over the summer, let's switch on the reading lamp. Hello, I'm Savari, and on this channel, I review books and talk about reading in general. Shall we have a look at the details of today's book?
Facts and Figures.
Into the Magic Shop by Dr. James R. Doty is a non-fiction book published in 2016 by Penguin Random House. 276 pages long, available in paperback, hardcover, and Kindle editions. There's no audiobook as such, but there is what I would call a companion book called Lessons from the Magic Shop, available on Audible India. It's an audio program written and narrated by the same author. The link to buy this book is in the first pinned comment and in the description below. Now, the actual contents of the book. But no spoilers, no worry. Just
The cover story.
Jim Doty was a poor boy whose future looked as bleak as his present. His father was often gone for weeks and usually drunk whenever he returned. His mother was almost always in bed and barely functioning. On the rare occasions, she would get up and try to make a meal if there was food in the house. Often, Jim would go hungry or visit a friend hoping that he would be asked to stay for a meal. He had an older brother who was physically smaller than him, as a result of which he often got picked on by bullies. Jim would end up fighting with the bullies for his brother. The summer before he was supposed to start 8th grade, there was very little for him to do. He had a bicycle that he had bought out of his own money that he had made by mowing lawns for people. He rode it on the dusty roads all over the town. One day he saw the sign for a magic shop at a strip mall. Jim loved doing magic tricks, so even though he had no money, he decided to go in just to have a look. An older woman was sitting inside reading a paperback. She smiled and looked straight into his eyes like no adult had done before. Her eyes were brown and kind, and her smile was big, and Jim found himself smiling back at her. She didn't know much about the shop because it belonged to her son, and she was just minding it for him while he was out running some errand. As Jim wandered around the shop, the two of them got talking. Her name was Ruth, and she asked him a lot of questions which made him think. She seemed genuinely interested in his answers. Jim never figured out what she saw in him that day, but she offered to teach him a special kind of magic that could turn his life around completely. She had learnt it from someone, and now it was time, she said, for her to teach it to someone else. She was visiting her son for 6 weeks, and Jim had to promise to meet her every day without missing a single day. There was nothing for him to do at home anyway, and he was intrigued by what kind of magic Ruth would teach him. So he agreed readily and kept his word for the whole of the 6 weeks. I'm sure you're also wondering what the magic was. As I read the book, I realized that Ruth was basically teaching him techniques for meditation and mindfulness. Over the next 6 weeks, she taught him to focus on his breath, calm his mind, and control his thoughts. She taught him visualization and manifestation. If you just thought, oh, please, keep listening, and I'll tell you why this book is not just another book about new age mumbo jumbo.
Speaking my mind.
You must have read or at least heard of a number of popular books on mindfulness and meditation and manifestation. It's possible that you already practice those techniques yourself, or you may be someone who thinks it's all humbug. I'll give you three reasons why I believe this book is completely different from anything you might have read before. First and foremost, this person talking to me about the human brain, neural pathways, and the connection between intelligence and the human heart is an eminent neurosurgeon. I'm going to sit up and listen. In 2008, Dr. Doty founded CCARE, Center for Compassion and Altruism Research and Education at Stanford. CCARE collaborates with neuroscientists, behavioral scientists, geneticists, and biomedical researchers to study the physiological and psychological correlates of compassion and altruism. What you read in the book are James Doty's personal experiences as well as the results of a lot of scientific research. We are talking science, not quackery. Second, this is an inspiring true story. The author is brutally honest about his life, the mistakes he made, the lessons he learned, and the things that worked for him and did not. My problem with books that talk about manifestation has always been that they seem like hocus pocus. I've never understood how manifestation is different from wishful thinking. This book is different because it's not about manifestation as such. You'll have to buy a different book for that. This book is about how a poor little boy called Jim overcame insurmountable obstacles to become the immensely successful Dr. James Doty. What's also wonderful about his writing is that he's matter of fact. When he tells you about his struggles, he is not asking for sympathy. He is just as candid about how success went to his head and make him arrogant and egotistical. While he does talk about the techniques Ruth taught him and how he used them, what is more important is that you get to see how practicing those techniques changed him. He did not just ask the universe and sit back to wait for his dreams to fall into his lap. For example, when he was in college, he was juggling multiple jobs, academics, and going back home to deal with his alcoholic father's troubles and his mother's health issues, all of which affected his grades. When the time came to apply for medical school, he was told that he didn't even qualify for an interview with the pre med committee. That could have meant the end of his lifelong dream of becoming a doctor. But the whole story of how he managed to get the interview, convinced the pre med committee, and got into medical school is goosebump worthy. He actively went after what he wanted, and the techniques helped him stay calm and focused and gave him the confidence to believe that he could make it happen. This book has finally answered that question in my mind of how manifestation is different from wishful thinking. Third, there is something in the book for everyone. If you're just looking for an entertaining story, you'll have it. If you're looking for inspiration, you have it. If you just need a boost of positivity, you have that. If you're stuck in a rut and looking for a push forward, you have that too. I have had a few projects in my mind for a very long time, but they've been stuck in that neverland of planning since ages. I started reading the book last Friday. By Sunday, I'd already begun working on two of those projects. Besides pushing me to act on what I've been intending, I feel like this book has also freed me from worrying about the outcome. I haven't yet begun using any of the techniques that James Doty talks about because I need to read up on that. But I will. For now, what this book has done is help me throw off that feeling of inertia. And it feels so darn good. This is one of those books that I highlighted furiously. One of the sections that I liked a lot talks about the intelligence of the heart. It sort of explains why we use words like heartache when ideally it should be mind ache. After all, when someone hurts our feelings, they are basically hurting our mind, right? You'll have to read the book to know the answer, but I'll read out a paragraph from the book that will give you a hint.
Quote unquote.
What research has shown is that the heart sends far more signals to the brain than the brain sends to the heart. And while both the cognitive and emotional systems in the body are intelligent, there are far more neural connections that go from the heart to the brain than the other way around. Both our thoughts and our feelings can be powerful, but a strong emotion can silence a thought, while we can rarely think ourselves out of a strong emotion. In fact, it is the strongest emotions that will trigger ruminating or incessant thought. This book is full of light bulb moments. And the best part is that I believe each one of us can have a different aha moment depending on what we are looking for at that point in time. It's brilliant. Now, the LINEDSCAPE rating of today's book.
LINEDSCAPE Rating.
Up there is a link to the video that explains my LINEDSCAPE book rating system. 7 parameters of this book are 10 on 10. Descriptions are a 9, and only characters and aesthetics are 8. The total score is 95 over 100, which makes it a perfect 5-star book. If you're wondering why all of my books are 4 or 5 stars and why I never have a 2 or 3 star book review, I think I'll put up a short video sometime that answers that question. Let me know if you would like to see something like that. Now it's time to put my thoughts.
In a nutshell.
Into the Magic Shop by Dr. James R. Doty is a true story of how the magic of mindfulness and compassion changed the life of a poor little boy from California with no hopes of a bright future and turned him into an eminent professor of neurosurgery at Stanford. It's an inspiring story of the power of compassion towards others and yourself, of how a simple act of kindness can change a life. And it's a guide on how to live a more meaningful life. This is a book for all seasons and all reasons. Whatever you may be looking for in a book right now, whether it's entertainment, inspiration, or information, it's all here in this compact book. This is one book I cannot recommend enough. Do read it. And do visit this channel every Friday for a fresh book review. If you liked this episode, please give me a thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button and the notification bell icon. And please share with your friends and family. The more, the merrier. This is Asavri signing off for now. Until the next time, have fun under the reading lamp. Switch on, read on.